Josh Malon, your main host for today's podcast.
While I am Lucas Arcenas, his co-host.
And you are watching Bound to Love, Understanding Covenantal Love in Everyday Relationships. For today's special occasion, we actually have featured a guest for our program. Introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, my name is Faith and I'll be your guest for today.
But before we begin, let me introduce the goal of the episode. To explain God's covenant as the foundation of harmonious relationships and how covenantal love can foster healthy relationships in everyday life.
We believe this topic is relevant for us, as most teenagers nowadays are open-minded, emotionally aware, and value meaningful connections to better understand how to build healthy relationships, but may lack the foundation to do so.
Or in other words, they desire deeper, more real relationships, but lack the understanding to do so, in which they will be able to understand in this session. This world is shaped nowadays by social media and trends. Many of us may feel lost or unsure about who we are and how we relate to others. Because of this, relationships today tend to be more fragile and temporary.
This relates to the idea of individualism, which prioritizes personal goals and independence over meaningful conversations. This is seen through the current social view, more egoistic, prioritizing oneself more so than others, which may lead to trying to follow suit, feeling the pressure to move on.
And so maybe that's why young people nowadays lack commitment, as the current social view reinforces the idea of a relationship feeling more like a phase or not that important kind of way, rather than full loyalty to one's own partner.
But that's where God's covenantal love comes to light. From the very beginning, God chose to commit to humanity, not because we're meant to be special or perfect, but simply because He loves us. And that same covenantal love still shapes who we are, how we treat others, and why our lives are important.
Yeah, that viewpoint of self-giving love challenges individualistic one we have today. Related to that in the Bible, God's covenant show that relationships aren't just about rules, but about commitment, love, and trust.
Oh, kind of like Noah, right? In which God promises never to destroy the earth again. Even when he did make a mistake, God didn't rebuke the covenant and stayed faithful. This shows that forgiveness and second chances are important in any relationship.
Exactly. Another example of that would be Abraham, where God asked him to trust even when he doesn't fully understand what will happen. This is similar to our own relationships, where trust is needed even when things are uncertain.
Oh, alright. But what about another covenant? What about Moses? As through Moses, God gives the laws to guide people in how they live and treat others. These laws remind us that love is not just about feelings, but also about responsibility, respect, and doing what is right.
Yes. So if we look at the covenants all together as one, it also leads to Jesus, who shows the greatest example of covenantal love, forgiving himself to others. Through Jesus, we learn that God does not give up on us and that we are called to build relationships based on trust, forgiveness, and commitment on our everyday lives and communities.
I see. That's actually really cool.
But guys, I have a question. Do y'all know God continues to communicate with us till this day?
No, not really.
Well, it's actually really simple. The sacraments, through the church, the sacraments are administered. With it, He communicates, maintains a steady and loving relationship, and does not act merely as a simple reminder or symbol. It is what truly makes Jesus active and present in our lives as believers.
I mean, I think I remember now. Is it every time a sacrament is celebrated, Christ is the minister or priest? This is why we are taught that sacraments are encounters with our risen Lord, and not just acts as a mere symbol.
Yes, exactly.
I get it. Also, aren't the covenants the foundation to our relationship with God and others? As each sacrament is rooted within the paschal mystery, for example, the Passion, the death, etc. With it, a promise is fulfilled in a way. For example, baptism is when we die and rise with Christ, or the Eucharist, when we are reunited with Him, honoring the promise and grace as we walk with Jesus. The strength that the sacraments hold comes from the central mystery of our faith. God's saving love is each represented with each sacrament.
Yup, your understanding of it is right. While we're on the topic of covenants, there's actually 3 categories of covenants: initiation, healing, and commitment. The sacraments of initiation welcome us to the church, serving as the foundation of spiritual life. The sacraments of healing deal with the mental, moral, or physical sufferings we encounter along the way with our journey. Finally, the sacraments of commitment emphasizes the importance of heeding to Christification, as well as serving others with the context of that of the Christ and the community, embodying the theme of self-sacrifice integral to the Christian life. All of which, if understood correctly, can not only help but strengthen relationships that are in the midst of struggle.
So, in the end of covenantal life is like that of Christ, as the sacraments reflect Jesus' journey through life and death, known as the Paschal Mystery. These sacraments embody the promises that Christ gave, but they also reflect the format of the covenants, which is seen through His visible sign, then His invisible grace, and with participation grows stronger and clearer.
You know, I noticed something in relationships, that they're often tested through conflict, distance, and misunderstanding. These experiences tend to make us feel confused, hurt, as we try to fix these conflicts on our own. But sometimes we struggle to search for an understanding of what went wrong. Because of this, we may withdraw from conflict, becoming distant from the people we love to protect ourselves. This often leads to unresolved issues and lack of closure.
So, that kind of reminds me of my own personal experience, where there were times where I would feel just a lot of stress, or a lot of things overwhelm me to the point where I feel like even that God might not be around me. But then at some point, if I have if I have a good support group, or if I slowly remind myself that God's right there, it all of a sudden the experience is less hard with me, at least, because now I know that there's at least someone out there watching me.
Hey, that experience actually mirrors God's covenantal faithfulness, as it ends on an important message that we don't have to go through these struggles alone, and that we were never meant to.
Yeah, that's true. Kinda like how choosing reconciliation and understanding reflects response to God's commitment, as God remains faithful even to us when we fail to reach out to Him. This invites us to choose forgiveness and understanding that opens our eyes to stronger relationships.
Yes, like how covenantal love invites us not to give up on relationships too quickly. It calls us not to lose all faith and abandon relationships when they become difficult, reflecting on God's faithful love in the way we should treat others. In the end, I want you guys to remember 3 important insights from the session. 1, relationships are not just about rules, but about commitment, love, and trust. 2, mirror that of God's love, a self-giving view. Number 3, forgiveness is important for any relationship. Understand others. Everyone is battling their own inner struggles.
Not only that, but God's covenantal love reminds us that our relationships aren't established by temporary or self-serving. They are meant to reflect commitment, forgiveness, faithfulness, especially during times when they are tested.
Love is through acts, not words with no promise. We should live our lives in servitude to others that reflect the everlasting love and sacrifice of our Savior Jesus Christ. We are called to rise up to live out the Lord's name through faith and love as a community.
Thank you, everyone, for watching the podcast. And remember, live out faith through commitment, service, and love in everyday relationships. Bye. See you again next time.